Welcome back to Houston Newsmakers. You know, the Houston business landscape looks nothing like it did this time last year. The George R. Brown Convention Center, which has been the center of activity for all sorts of events, either emergency or conventions, has been mostly quiet. Hotels downtown that rely in large part on convention business have seen tremendous drops in business and subsequently revenue, and that means jobs lost and lives disrupted for thousands. Joining me this morning are two people who are keenly aware of the challenges faced by this pandemic. Michael Heckman is the acting president and CEO of Houston First, which owns the Hilton Americas downtown, operates the George R. Brown and many other venues that rely on paying customers. Also, Jennifer Hernandez, who's the Director of Communications for the International Union of Painters and International Trades, the talented folks responsible for what you see when you go downtown to the George R. Brown and other places around as well. Good morning to both of you. Michael, I've read that hotels across Houston are taking a tremendous financial beating because of the pandemic. Paint the picture of what you're experiencing at the Hilton Americas and as an example of this pandemic-related problem we're having.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here. You know, 2020 has been unlike anything that we've ever experienced in our lives for so many of us. But the travel, live events, and tourism business has been maybe the hardest hit of all. We're right there with airlines and others that have had just a historic disruption of our industry. We were coming into 2020 and going to have a record year, record conventions. Tourism had continued to uptick year after year. And then in the middle of March, that just all went away. It just vanished. We had every major convention in Houston cancel. After March, we have not held a major convention this entire year. And you had hotels that were in a very healthy position all throughout our city immediately had their demand evaporate. So it's been a really difficult year for anybody that supplies into the hospitality business, whether that be transportation, whether that be service industries, restaurants, small businesses, and we feel the pain that has been across our entire hospitality sector because of what's happened this year with the pandemic.
And Jennifer, talk a bit about your union, the people you represent, and how they're being impacted by all of this. I know you've had opportunities to try to call attention to the challenges that are being faced by your people. Tell us how that is.
So here at District Council 88, we represent trade show workers throughout the state of Texas and here in Houston as well with Local Union 550. They were the first to be impacted by the pandemic and COVID-19, and they'll be one of the last to return to work. They felt the effects immediately. And one of the main concerns right now that's more pressing that we're really having this call to action for is unemployment benefits do expire at the end of this year. And then there's an eviction moratorium that will end also on New Year's Eve, leaving a lot of folks kind of destitute over the holidays. But looking at the bigger picture, these are folks that, you know, contribute to the local economy, drive the local economy, and it created a domino effect, like Michael said, and tons of other sectors, ground transportation, hospitality, airlines. When trade shows aren't happening, it affects a multitude of things. And we've seen industry-specific relief for a lot of other sectors, and that's great. But we really are pushing to see some relief for the convention industry and the workers within that industry because they're hurting.
Michael, the difference between this year and last year as far as business is concerned is night and day. There's no comparison. So the question then becomes, how far in advance do you normally book business? And then in this case, how far in advance are you looking to see a possible start for a turnaround?
Yeah, so we've got some encouraging news, right? The vaccine being out and distributed and seemingly having good success with the bringing that to scale brings some green shoots. We've seen that the second half of next year, our schedule for major conventions is firming up. We've seen some major conventions move from the first quarter and the second quarter into the second half of the year. So that's very good news. We do believe the first quarter and the next several months will be difficult, but we're not seeing a lot of cancellations for 2021, which is encouraging news. We'll see how the attendance levels are. We are encouraged, but we do believe that the next several months for hotels and others in the industry will be difficult. That said, in 2020, we were able to rebook. Our sales team at Houston First was able to rebook 92% of the lost hotel room nights for future years. Some of those were into 21, but some of those were then into future years. like 2022, 23, and 24. So it's been a difficult time, but we do see some encouraging signs.
Yeah, that's a good thing when you can get that kind of rebooking. It lets you know that this is a real challenging time for now. All you got to do is hold on, and get to the other side, and you'll be just fine. Jennifer, what kinds of help do your members need right now? I know that with Michael at the George R. Brown, for example, a lot of things that happen at the George R. Brown don't happen unless the people who are in your union get down there and make it happen. What kinds of help do they need right now, and how they're making it during these difficult times?
We've seen some members, have to find other employment in the meantime while we're waiting for our industry to come back, which kind of leaves us curious on how that's going to pan out when we do return with labor and being able to make sure we're able to fulfill the needs to produce these beautiful shows that happen in Houston. Immediately, we need Congress to take action. We need Congress to pass a robust relief package that's going to benefit these workers. It's not time for partisan anything. We want to make sure that workers in our industry are safe and taken care of and are able to maintain until our industry comes back.
So, Michael, before we go, I want people to get a sense of what Houston First does. Talk a bit about what all the fingers that Houston First, your fingers are in the pie of a lot of stuff that happens within this community. Talk a little bit about that.
We do hold a unique position, particularly among our competing U.S. cities of how we're structured. We do own the Hilton Americas. We manage the George R. Brown, among others, Miller Outdoor Theater, many of our wonderful performing arts venues downtown, like Jones Hall and the Wortham Theater Center. But we're also the destination marketing and management organization. So we help develop and promote Houston's brand all over the world. We make sure that Houston is seen as one of the best cities in the world, which we all know that live here that it is. Mm-hmm. And so that's really our charge, and our job is to get that word out, to bring visitors here and to create value and create economic impact for this community, which ultimately supports businesses, and then what most importantly does is creates and sustains jobs.
Well, I'm looking forward to us getting back on track, where we can come down to the George R. Brown downtown, Hilton Americas, all of those venues, and everything is just hustling and bustling. Michael Heckman, Jennifer Hernandez, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this, and good luck as we get ready to head into the new year with hopefully a whole lot more better luck. Thank you again for being on.